Hello, FishDuck friends. Kurt here, co-owner of FishDuck.com. Welcome to our first episode of our inaugural FishDuck video podcast. Every week I'm going to be having one-on-one conversations with FishDuck staff members, current and former student athletes, coaches, outside experts to get their perspective on things. For this initial episode, I spoke with Patrick Johnson, Oregon wide receiver from 1994 through 1997. He was also a track star who went on to a very fruitful NFL career, won a Super Bowl ring with the Baltimore Ravens, and currently is back in Eugene training for a shot at the Olympics. So Patrick had some interesting things to say. Unfortunately, we ran into a few technical difficulties. We couldn't get both video and audio. So for our first video podcast, it's actually an audio one. I put some highlights up to help remember Patrick by. But he had some interesting things to say. They won't always be this long, but if you know Patrick, he likes to talk. So enjoy. Here's my conversation with Patrick Johnson. Patrick Johnson, thank you for being the very first guest on the inaugural FishDuck podcast.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate you guys having me.
Let's get started kind of from the beginning with how you got to Oregon. Now, I know that you were the high school track champion in California, and people always think of you as a track guy who had to learn how to play football, but that's really not true. Why don't you set the record straight once and for all? Were you a track guy who learned how to play football, or a football guy who also ran track?
I started playing both at really the same time in a track meet or any type of relay or anything like that. I didn't, I wasn't involved in any of that until, the 11th grade. But saying that, I mean, I would say that I'm neither. I'm just a good, I'm not a track guy or a football guy. I'm both.
So where did that foot speed come from?
You know what? I don't know. I think what it is, hey, I mean, you can train your body to do miraculous things, really. You could train your body to, if you want to be a really great distance runner, you could train your body to do that. Now, certain people's physiques and stuff like that, once you start getting into technical racing and stuff like that, it kind of lends it. If you're like a 6'5" guy, I mean, most of those guys are either long-distance runners or jumpers or something like that, but it's rare that they're like Usain Bolt. So, like, physical characteristics do make a play into being a good sprinter, but you can train yourself to do either or. I really couldn't really classify myself as either when I went to the university of when I initially went to the University of Oregon.
So what was it that brought you from California up to Eugene, Oregon to become a Duck?
It was almost a certainty that I would go to USC, but my mother kind of didn't want me to, get in the environment and, where I could lose focus. I want to go run track in college. And I liked Oregon because Oregon was still in the Pac-10. It wasn't in L.A., and I could do two sports. But Oregon was unique in a sense that I'm still in the Pac-10 because, going to high school in Southern California is just Pac-10. It was a real safe, a great alternative to going to USC. And also, I also looked at what position that I wanted to play. They wanted me to play wide receiver. Only really 3 schools recruited me to play wide receiver. Every other school was for defense. But I didn't want to go where I was going to play on defense. I didn't want to play on defense. And I was just like, if I'm tackling all the time, and I love to tackle, but I'm going to be too beat up to try to run track. So if I'm playing receiver, I'm running forward all the time. Oregon gave me the opportunity, like a lot of schools. I mean, I got recruited by Purdue. I had a relative that was actually coached the running back. And, they were recruiting me, and they were like, buddy, you're 160.
Right.
You don't have little guys like that playing running back out here, buddy. Oregon had a complex offense. It was an NFL offense. It was pro style to the T. We learned every formation, every set, like the basic. When I got to the NFL, they were like, man, they coach you guys up like that at Oregon? I said, man, we already running these plays. Dude, we were running the same route tree. Everything was the same when I got to the pros. Well, terminology and stuff was different, but play concepts and stuff like that. We ran all the same play concepts. But that was one of the big reasons why I wanted to come to Oregon. You know, it was just coming on. When I got here, it was just so chill. You know, my host was Macklemore, you know, and he took me out, showed me a great time. I mean, I hung out with the fellas. I mean, it was just a good time. Well, I had fun, you know what I mean? And I wasn't too far from home, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, that was the reason. Once I got here, once I left, I knew this is where I wanted to be at.
The first sight that people really got of you was that Stanford game late in the year when you caught this crazy deflected touchdown pass on a day that just seemed like nothing could go wrong. But you made your early mark really as a kick returner and a punt returner. That's kind of what everyone remembers you of in those early days of 94, 95, and you slowly got implemented more into the passing program. And of course, everyone will always remember you for the touchdown catch against Washington in 1997 and the long touchdown catch in the 1997 Las Vegas Bowl. I believe that was the first play from scrimmage in the game.
Yeah. But you know what, though? When I look at, you know, sometimes I think about this stuff, right, a lot. You know, even like, you know, some of the big catches, like the catch at Washington, very monumental time in my career. You know, I came on late in the season, but, you know, my coaches really challenged me over that last year. I mean, my coaches, even from my weight coach, you know, Radcliffe, you know, Chris Peterson, that last year, they really, really, really challenged me to get better. When I first got here, that year we went to the Rose Bowl will probably be that was the most critical season in my development as a wide receiver. And it was because the way we started that season, I was the fifth receiver, because we had Christian Macklemore coming back. He caught like 50 balls the year before. And then you had Corey Murphy, and then you had Dameron Ricketts, and then they had Eric Johansson, who they used a little bit, and then there was me and Damon Griffin. And we really didn't think, because we both came in the same year. We were there. The way things were looking, they might have just redshirt. They were going to redshirt both of us. And Corey Murphy got injured, second game of the season against Hawaii, and to come to find out he had a narrowing of his spinal column, so his career was over. I caught my first career pass that game. I got a 42-yard pass falling off of the table, like I was falling out of bounds, from Danny O'Neal. That was my first career pass. I mean, and that's really the most memorable. That's the most memorable time for me, most memorable catch for me. And also just really going through the course of that season, coming in to moving to a new place, you know, being around different people, being away from home, playing a position that I had never played before because I was a running back in high school. I was playing wide receiver, learning how to run, really physically how to run patterns. That was the most critical period for me, and I learned from one of the greatest receivers of all time, Macklemore. In my mind, he's probably the best wide receiver in the history of Oregon. He spent time with me that he didn't have to. He's the best pure wide receiver ever. Nobody can run patterns better than Macklemore. When you got a person like that every day that you can just watch, and you watch guys you try to do whatever you can to try to copy him.
Do you have a personal favorite moment during your time at Oregon, either on the field or off the field, track or football, something that stands out as like your defining moment as a Duck?
Would probably be off the field. There's real good people up here. As long as you're cool, they're cool. I've lived other places. I've lived in Toronto, great city. I love it up there too. You know, went to high school in California, Southern California, beautiful place there. I grew up in Georgia. You know, that's beautiful. I mean, but Oregon is very unique. It's okay to be you in Oregon, you know.
So after your time at Oregon, you left as one of the all-time fan favorites, being probably the fastest guy to ever put on a football uniform at Oregon. And you went to the Baltimore Ravens and actually won a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens. So you got to participate in a Rose Bowl and a Super Bowl. But which was the better experience, going to the Rose Bowl or going to the Super Bowl?
being an athlete that, you know, when you're in the moment, it's almost like you can't really soak it in. It's like, it's weird. It's a weird feeling. Each one kind of has its own merit. Oregon going to the Rose Bowl at that time was unheard of. It wasn't even fathomable. Fans have to put into context and actually how good that team was. And actually, I'm proud to be a Raven, because when you get picked by the Ravens, that's like almost getting picked by like Stanford or something. I mean, it's almost like if you go play for the Ravens, you're one of the best players in the NFL. Like, they have some of the best players. I mean, Ozzie Newsome is going to go down as one of the best general managers in the history of the NFL. Period. And he picked me, so that's pretty good.
Does it give you some pride in the fact that the Ravens continue to have Oregon players on their roster with now Haloti Ngata and Ed Dickson?
Why do you think they keep getting Oregon players? But I played. You know, I was so lucky to play for the Ravens because I played with so many Hall of Famers. I played with Ray Lewis, Jonathan Ogden, Sam Adams, Tony Saragusa, Priest Holmes, and Jamal Lewis, who both will probably go into the Hall of Fame. And then you got Shannon Sharp, who's going into the Hall of Fame. Ben Coates, who's going into the Hall of Fame. I mean, you just keep naming them. Ty Heath. You know, so I played with so many great football players, and I was able to, you know, really just cerebrally, I was taught. So, I sat next to Shannon Sharp, okay, in our team meetings, and he literally taught me how to read coverages. How lucky was I? Randall Cunningham, I played with him. He's going to the Hall of Fame. Deion Sanders. I played with so many. Rod Woodson every day. You know, I played football with guys like that. Seeing these guys day in and day out on an everyday basis. I'm just happy to say that I was actually the first Oregon player to go to the Ravens.
After your playing days in the NFL were done, and I know you also played in the CFL for a little while, you're now retired from football, and you have a new operation. Tell me about rawteams.com.
You know, we talked about what we wanted to do, and once we got with the guys with the technology to build the site the way that we wanted to have it built, it took a period of time before all that could get done. It's like, oh, snap, here it is. Like, from the idea, here it is, right? But then just really getting it out there.
So it's a social media website like Facebook, but it caters specifically to athletics. It has athletes, it has fans, and it has live news feeds, and you can organize within teammates. Talk about some of the cool features.
Well, you know, Raw Teams is pretty sweet, you know, from that standpoint. That's our angle. It's a way for you to basically get in contact with people. I mean, there's other features like, obviously, you can IM. Obviously, you know, we have tons of sporting content. We have, like, traditional news content on there as well. You know, you can actually set up all your own teams. Like if you play an intramural team or like a neighborhood team, or if you guys got, you know, I mean, you could set up your own teams, and then you invite all your contacts to basically sign up that way. So like, let's just imagine if you have like a intramural soccer league, and you want to basically post some scores from the week before, or you want to send out invitations to people on your team. We're meeting here at XXX amount of time.
And in addition to doing rawteams.com, currently you are back in Eugene, and tell everyone about what you're doing back in Oregon these days.
Last summer, I went out and I ran a 400 meters, and right at 50 seconds. I watched the trials and the World Championship trials last year in Eugene, and the guy, I think the guy that took fifth in the 400 ran like a mid-45. So I said, well, if I just stop eating, if I change my diet and don't drink any alcohol and watch what I eat and start lifting again, I can run that. Really, basically, that's kind of how the idea started. And the more I thought about it, I said, man, I can do that. Like, how come I can't? And I've had really like a 4-year rest, no competition, but just staying in shape. So like, I didn't put a ton of miles on my leg.
So for the Oregon fans who cheered you on and who watched you play for the Ravens and the Jaguars and the Redskins and maybe even the Argonauts, they can now catch you one more time in June at the USA Olympic Trials at Hayward Field. Any final messages for the Oregon fans out there?
Hopefully I'll still look the same.
Patrick Johnson, thank you very much for being the inaugural guest on the FishDuck podcast. My apologies that we couldn't get the video working, but we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Go Duck.
Patrick Johnson, thank you very much for the time, and we'll be watching you come end of June for the USA Olympic trials at Hayward Field.